Ridge.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I don't think that the members on the other side are expecting that I'll be glowing in my commentary regarding their budget. If they are, I'm sorry to disappoint them. I was here in the House when the Minister of Finance gave the budget, and I was taken aback at one point when she seemed to be very proud. Matter of fact, she mentioned this twice, about how the Liberals only spent $354.2 billion. And she said, well, we restrained ourselves by not spending extra $30 billion that we could have spent. That was in our projections. So, and that was repeated twice. And I thought, $354 billion. The fact of the matter, I appreciate this. Some water. The fact of the matter is that when the Liberals won the election, 2015, despite having fewer voters voting for them, nevertheless, that's our first past the post system, which is fine. They were given a surplus. It was a surplus situation that they were in. They said, okay, well, we're going to run a deficit of $10 billion, and it's like they never came through with their projection on any of their projections as far as the deficit goes. But anyways, this budget right here that the last year's spending, 2020 to 2021, was 35 times more than the deficit they projected when they first came into power. It's just, so it is. You know, it's like they've lost the sense of what the worth of money, worth of, of fiscal prudence. If Larry and Martha or any other small business owner or Canadian were to be borrowing money and spending all their savings as the Liberals here, they'd be in an extremely precarious state, probably evicted from their home. But the Liberals are taking us down this risky path, and they seem to actually be quite nonchalant about that. What's happened to nations across the world and throughout history, just go throughout history, the government doesn't seem to feel that this applies to Canada. No, we're Canadians. It's the laws and principles of the natural world, of science, which they like to affirm of, they also apply to economics. If someone steps over a cliff, they will go down, even if they're wearing a Canadian flag on their t-shirt. Madam Speaker, I think of Argentina. It's a large and beautiful country. I haven't been there, but I've read about it. Many natural resources and a large immigrant population, large European population that came there during the early 1900s and late 1800s. They made it for decades of the 20th century, outgrew Canada and Australia in population growth and per capita growth, and was one of the 10 richest nations in the world. But they made some poor economic choices and ended up defaulting 9 times on their economy. The inflation was in double digits and up to 5,000%. It wiped out the prosperity of the middle class. In the 1970s, they had a few years of sound economic policies, but then they started going further and further in deficits, and their external debt tripled in 3 years. People lost their savings. They said, well, that's Argentina. Well, let's go a few thousand kilometers north to Venezuela, okay? Venezuela is another story. It has the largest reserves of oil in the world. It was the wealthiest nation in South America. In 1998, President Chavez was elected, and his vision was to greatly expand social services, to take people out of poverty, to implement his socialist agenda. Well, we know now how that has fared. 5 million people have fled that nation. People have gone hungry. The average weight has, for every individual has gone down many many pounds, kilograms. There is real shortages of any basic supplies, gasoline, everything. It's a disaster. And they're harassing the press and closed down independent outlets, taking over hundreds of private businesses. What did they do? They increased money supplies, borrowed, out of control, and I know I could hear people saying, "Oh, Mark, you're just being alarmist. You know, let's not be so ridiculous." Well, I would say this, Madam Speaker. Open your eyes. Open your eyes to what's happening in Canada today. How many rights and freedoms have been sidelined in our society because of COVID and responding to medical needs and safety? But who would have believed? Who would have believed we'd be in the situation we're at right now a year and a bit ago? I don't think anybody. I don't think anybody. Borders are virtually closed. In British Columbia, which I am a member of parliament there, you can't travel. You're not supposed to travel outside of your health authority. Places of worship have been closed. The inability to see your family, to attend funerals, weddings, to people dying alone, suicides. The problems are there, and people are afraid. People are afraid, and I know a lot of people. I personally know a lot of people who have COVID. I have an uncle that has passed also from it, so I'm not saying this is not real. It is very real. But who would imagine that we're in a situation? I wouldn't imagine here being in this house speaking to, there are a few people here, okay? And a few are in the virtual world. But who would imagine this situation? So why am I talking about this right now, Madam Speaker? It's because I'm talking about the budget. I'm talking about the problems that could happen to Canada. To Canada. You know, we couldn't imagine losing the freedoms that we've lost right now. We couldn't imagine this a year and a half ago. I don't think these other nations that were so high and doing so well could possibly have imagined how their economy collapsed. That can happen in Canada. It can happen in Canada. Let's not kid ourselves. Let's not kid ourselves. This is serious business. You know, I was reading about the Fraser Institute. They're saying, I know I hear an oh no there, but you know what? I think they say that actually only 12% of the finances are actually, of the budget is actually going to directly support COVID measures. The rest is, what is it? It's pre-election pandering, a lot of this. And I know that there's some really good stuff. It sounds really good. I may get to this in a bit. For example, the child care provisions. The only thing with the child care provisions is that they've been promised since 1993 under Chrétien and Martin, under all the Liberals. It's always been promised, but does it ever show up? Okay, I know that, and I have no doubt they will have some, they will get a bottle of wine and open up a few spots where they will actually open up for child care. But that's what this is. You know, I was talking to a member of parliament a year ago, and I said, you know, don't be surprised if we're not meeting in a few months. I was actually thinking a few weeks, because I knew that I was watching about what's happening with COVID, and he looked at me like I was crazy. and I phoned my kids. They're talking about buying a place, and I said, you know what, don't tell anybody this right there, because they're going to wonder, but I recommend you stock up. 1 minute? Madam Speaker, that's not fair. You mean 10 minutes? 9 minutes. I've spoken. That can't be. Anyways, okay. Anyway, we're going to talk about. Hey, Madam Speaker, let me speak about another nation a little closer to home. How about Canada? Let's talk about Canada. Oh, okay. Well, Canada. Let's talk about Prime Minister Trudeau, #1, PEA. Okay.
The member, he's not to use the name of the Prime Minister or any other MPs in the House, and he's got 30 seconds to wrap up.
That's my time, because you didn't speak, Madam Speaker, so I need that time. I want to talk about the first Prime Minister that's related to the current Prime Minister. So, anyways, when his government starts spending way more revenues than they can receive, large deficits, increasing debt, federal spending became 20% of the economy, Madam Speaker. You know what now? It's 30% now. high debt crisis, high inflation, 650,000 people in employment, inflation at 12%, unemployment at 12%, lending rates 8.
Unfortunately, the honourable member's time is up. However, he'll be able to add during questions and comments, and I'm sure he's got lots to add. The honourable member for Kingston and the Islands under questions and comments.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the member's passion, and I listened to him very attentively up until the point where he started referencing the Fraser Institute, and we can debate that a whole other time. But, you know, he talks about the position that we're in. Never did I imagine when I ran in 2015 or in 2019 that Canada, while I was here, would ever be in a position where we owed over $1 trillion in debt. That's the reality. I don't think any of us did, but we also didn't realize the position that we would be in. You know, we're not the only nation to be in this position. Most nations throughout the world that are developed countries like ours are in the same position. Yet we made a choice, Madam Speaker, and the choice was, let's invest in Canadians. Yes, all the money comes from the taxpayer, but the difference is we thought the taxpayer should bear the burden rather than certain sectors of the economy and certain sectors of our population. Would the member not agree that if we didn't invest in Canadians like this, we would be in a much worse place when we do come out of this pandemic?
Honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Madam Speaker, I want to say, I agree with you, member. Hey, I agree with you. Okay, well, I agree that we do support Canadian workers. I think it's really key. You know, Conservatives have been there. Matter of fact, we've looked for ways. How can we help? Okay, how can we help Canadians? So we are there, and not everything is bad in the budget. There might be a few things they need improvements. We'll make some amendments, but you know, most of it is. It is a real mess. And you know, here's another problem, Madam Speaker. I'd have to keep on here. I'm only on page 4 of 9. So the situation is this: is that 1/3 of in the first Prime Minister related to the current one of Canadian the budget was going to debt servicing. That is disastrous. Okay, go ahead. Another question.